We begin the Gemara today on Daf Lamed Beis Amud Beis, the last line. So this will continue a discussion which is a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Ula. We had our Mishnah that says that in a case where there's both a malchus and a knas, and that is when he had a relation with a sister or any other of the arayas. So there's both knas and malchus. So Ula says the rule always is you pay. You don't. If you have two punishments, the rule is you pay and not malchus. In a case where there is no payment because the girl is not a naira, she's a begere, so then the knas doesn't apply, so then there's malchus. Rabbi Yochanan says the exact opposite. Whenever you have mammon and malchus, the rule always is malchus. If there was no warning, so then there's no malchus, so then you pay. And that's what our Mishnah was speaking about, that there was no warning. So the Gemara now, one second, so the Gemara now wants to understand why Rabbi Yochanan does not accept Ula's source. Ula brought before a pasuk. He brought a Gzeira Shaveh, Tachas, which taught that whenever there's mammon and malchus, you always have to pay. So what does Rabbi Yochanan do with that source? Rabbi Yochanan, my time alayam kula. Why doesn't he accept the Gzeira Shaveh of Tachas that Ula says? So the Gemara answers, because if you're going to accept that Gzeira Shaveh, bitalta ervas achayscha lo yisagala. So you're being mevatel, you're nullifying the lav that the Torah said that if you have a relation with a sister, you get malchus. And over here you're saying that because there's a knas as well, so there's no malchus. So you're nullifying this lav where the Torah says there's malchus. How could you do that? But the Gemara doesn't accept this. Says the Gemara, if so, ask the same question when someone harms his friend. Over there as well, there's malchus, because when you hit, there's malchus. And besides that, there's payment. So what do we say there? There also you have to pay, and there's no malchus. So why don't you say the same thing? Imkain, the fact that you pay and there's no malchus, bitalta lo yosef pen yosef, you mevatel the lav, where it says that when a bezna hits someone, he's chayav malchus, but you can't hit him any extra. So over there's also malchus, and by saying that you pay and not malchus, you're being mevatel that lav. And another case that we had before already, Eidim Zaymimin Nami, regarding Eidim Zaymimin as well, where there's malchus and there's also pay. So what did we say over there? That you pay and there's no malchus. Over there, it's the pasuk v'hoyam bina kaisarasha. This is a Gemara in the beginning of Masechta Makis. It learns out from this pasuk that Eidim Zaymimin you get malchus. But when you pay, there's no malchus. So you're being mevatel, you're nullifying this pasuk as well. So what's the answer to both of those cases? Why by Chayva b'Chaverei or by Eidim Zaymimin are we not concerned about the fact that he's paying and we're just nullifying the malchus? The answer is, as long as there is a case where you could apply the malchus, the fact that in most cases you're nullifying the malchus doesn't bother us, as the Gemara explains now. So now, Elo, what are you going to say as follows? Eidim Zaymimin, regarding the case of Eidim Zaymimin, Efshir l'kiyuma, you can fulfill the pasuk that says that you get malchus in the following case. This is the first Mishnah of Masechta Makis. Ben grusha or ben chalutza. If Eidim came along and said about a certain individual that he's a pasal kayin because his mother was a ben grusha, his father kayin was married to a grusha or chalutza. Now over here, the regular halacha of kasher zamam does not apply. Because how are you going to make these Eidim a ben grusha ben chalutza as well? It's not applicable kasher zamam. So what do you do in that case? So there's where you could apply what we learned from the pasuk vayim ben akaisarasha that you give malchus. So therefore we're not totally nullifying malchus. There is an application for this malchus. Similar chayvul b'chaveiroi. So this you say that usually when you harm your friend there is no malchus. You just have to pay. But there is a case where there is malchus. Ikele kiyuma, we could fulfill the malchus. The Gemara mentioned this before. If you hit someone and the damage you caused is less than the value of a pruta, you don't pay. And in addition to this, Rashi points out, usually when you hit someone, there are 5 different things you would have to pay. Tsar, nezek, ripisheves, baishes. But it has to be a situation where there was no pain involved and there's no baishes because let's say the person is a shaita, he didn't get embarrassed and there was no doctor bills, there was no loss of any job either. So none of the money payments apply. So in such a case, he would get malchus. So as long as there's a scenario where the malchus applies, we're not concerned that if in most cases you pay, a malchus doesn't apply. Similar over here, says the Gemara, regarding a person that had a relation with his sister. So what did the Gemara say before? Rav Yochanan can't say, it says you can't say that you mevatel the malchus. So the Gemara says no. mi'ikle kiyuma, we could say the malchus by having a relation with a sister applies. B'chayse begeres. If it's a sister that's a begeres, it's already 12 and a half and older, and there's no knas, so there's malchus. So the fact that in a case where there's malchus and money, Rabbi Yochanan still says that there's malchus and not money, like Rish Lakish learned out from a pasuk before. Why is this? What's the reason he disagrees with this Gzeir Shava of Rish Lakish? So the Gemara gives a different shot. Amalach Rabbi Yochanan says that this Gzeir Shava of Tachas cannot be learned out from. Why not? Because where is the pasuk of Tachas? The pasuk was, the Gemara quoted before, and it brings it again over here. Hi, Tachas Asher Ino. Here, when it says that he has to pay knas for this girl that he violated her because he gave her pain, so these words are not extra. So it can't be used for the Gzeir Shava. Why is it not extra? Because he darshans what Abaye darshan from here. The pasuk says, Tachas Asher Ino. The knas is for this that he gave her pain. Hi, Tachas Asher Ino. Why is the Torah using this expression, Tachas Asher Ino? I could just simply say, pay her 50 coins. For this that you violated her. It doesn't have to say Tachas Asher Ina. It doesn't have to specify that you caused her pain. Why is the Torah saying this? Klal, it's coming to tell you the Ikke Boishes Upagam, that this that you pay this penalty, it's only for this that you caused her pain. But besides that, there's other payment. There's also the embarrassment and the fact that you defiled her, and therefore her value goes down. In other words, without this pasuk, you may have thought that once the Torah says you pay 50 coins, that already includes everything. That includes the fact that you caused her pain, that includes her embarrassment, that includes the fact that her value then went down. So therefore the pasuk is saying specifically, no, this knas is just for the fact that you gave her pain. But in addition, there's baishus and pagam. So therefore the words tachas ashina are not extra, so therefore cannot be used for the Gzeir Shava. Rashi before said this Gzeir Shava here is only good because it's an extra word. If it's not an extra word, which is what's called mufne, so then there's a refutation to this limud, as the Gemara already explained before. So over here, Rabbi Yochanan says the words here are not extra. From where does Ula know this point? If Ula does use the tachas for the Gzeir Shava, so from where does he know that besides the knas, there's also baishus pagam? Nafkalei med Rava. He learns it out from a different drasha that Rava said. Rava said, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, V'nos neisha sheichavim alavia naira chamishim kesef, that this man that lay with this woman pays 50 coins. So why does the pasuk have to add these words? Ha'ish ha'sheichevima. It's there. It's obvious. There's extra words. So from here we learn out kesef that what we read like this. Hanoas shchive chamishim. This that you're paying the 50 coins is only for this that he lay with her. But miklal, from that we understand besides this, there's also the embarrassment and the pagam that he has to pay. So it's these extra words that teaches us that there's knas and baishus pagam. Okay, so that's the conclusion of this discussion regarding Rabbi Yochanan and Ula's opinion regarding a case where there's mammon and malchus. What do you get? Rabbi Yochanan says you get malchus, and Ula says you have to pay mammon. Now the Gemara comes back to another point. So along the discussion we had before regarding Eidim Zaymimin and regarding Chayvul B'Chaveirah. By the case of Eidim Zaymimin, where there's Malchus and Mammon, what do? You pay, no Malchus. Before, the Gemara brought a pasuk for this, because it says, Vasisim lekashazamam, and then it says Yad B'Yad. Yad B'Yad means something that goes from hand to hand, therefore that means money. Here, the Gemara is going to bring another opinion. How do I know regarding Eidim Zaymimin that you pay, and you don't get Malchus? Rabbi Lazar says, Eidim Zaymimin, Memaynim Mishalmi, Milkele Loki. The fact that by Eidim Zaymimin you pay and there's no Malchus, you don't need a pasuk for this that we mentioned before. There's a simple svara. And the reason is, Mishum Delav B'nei Hasra Ninu. Because the Eidim Zaymimin don't get warned for what they did. And if you don't get warned, you don't get Malchus. You have to pay, but to get an einish on your body, like Malchus or Misa or anything like that, there has to be a warning. And there was no warning here. Rashi does point out, though, there is an exception to this. We said before regarding a person that the Eidim Zaymimin that said Eid is about a person that is a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, then you do get Malchus, even without a warning. That is an exception. That we learn out from that pasuk Vayim bin Akaisa Rasha, that's an exception. But usually, by Eidim Zaymimin, where you have a choice, either to be Mechayev them Malchus or Mamain, it makes more sense to say that you pay and you don't get Malchus, which is a punishment on your body because you never got a warning for this. Now the Gemara will discuss this point. Is this really true that there's no warning for Eidim Zaymimin? Is there no? Why can't we warn them? So Amarav Teid, I'll prove this point to you. Nisri Buhu Emes. When should we give the warning to these Eidim? Should we give them a warning even before they walk into the Bezdin and warn them, be careful. You're walking into Bezdin, be careful what you say, it has to be true. So Amri, these Eidim could not argue and say Ishtalin. After we came into Bezdin, we got the warning 10 minutes ago, a half hour ago, we forgot. We didn't take the warning seriously. The warning has to be right before. It can't be even 10 minutes before. Now, Nisribu Bishas Maise, if we would say that right when they are in Bezdin already, right before they're going to say the Eidos, Bezdin stops them and gives them a warning right then, says the Gemara, the problem is, Parshivale Misadi. In such a case, if they're getting a warning from the Bezdin, so they're going to say to themselves, look, the Bezdin is not trusting us, the Bezdin is doubting if we're saying the truth or not. Forget it. Rashi uses the expression there, I think, Mali L'tzara. It's like, what do I need this whole problem for over here? If Bezdin doesn't trust me, forget it. So I won't say the Eidos. We don't want to push away Eidos of saying the Eidos. Now, Nesribul B'Saif, to give them a warning after the fact, after they said the Eidos, that you warn them that I hope what you said is true. It's too late. Maida Hava Hava, it's after the fact. And Rashi says this is based on the point, Kivin Shehigid, Shuven Achayzer Magid. Once you say Eidos, you can't take back your words. So B'Kitzah, the point is, there's no time to give Hasra here. The Gemara asks him this, wait, not necessarily. Maskef La Abaya asks, why don't we give them the warning right the moment after they finish speaking? Toich Kedei Dibur is within the short amount of time that it takes to say Shalom Alecha Rabbi Meiri. So you can give them the warning right then, and then they can take back the words. The point of Kivin Shehigid Shuven Achayzer Magid does not apply yet. And Taisus adds and explains, even though you may say, but once they finish saying the warning, it's already more than Toich Kedei Dibur after they finish their testimony. But as long as it's still in the middle of the same subject, they said their Eidos and they're getting the warning about it, and they get a chance to retract it, so it's still all considered to be one continuation of what they were doing, so they could retract their Eidos. So that would be a good punishment. In what? Okay. Toich Kedei Dibur. Another option, the Gemara says, Maskef Lo Ravacha B'Reid Ravika asks, what were you worried about? That if you're going to give them the warning before, so they're going to feel like, forget about it. We don't want to say this at all. He says, not necessarily. It depends how you warn them. Give them the warning before they say their Eidos, but v'nirmaz b'hu rimuzi. Say it in a subtle, hinting way. Don't say it like in a very harsh way that they'll feel like, forget about it. We don't want to speak. Give them Eidos in a subtle way that they will accept the Eidos, accept the warning that is, and they'll say the Eidos. So it is still possible to give a warning.
It's a special way of doing it.
But then Abaye took back what he said, that you could give the warning afterwards, and he says, no, Lav Milsi Damri. The point that I just said, that by Eidim Zaymin you could give a warning, this is not true. Why? Because if you're going to say Eidim Zaymin means that the Eidim Zaymin have to be warned, and they're only getting punished because they were warned, which would mean Kiloi Masrinabu. So if they did not get this warning, Loi Katlinalu, then we would not kill them. Of course, that would mean we're talking in a case where Eidim Zaymimin said Eidos on someone that he would be Chayiv Misa, then we would do to them the same. But are you saying now, if they would not get a warning, they would not get this punishment to be killed? But then if so, you're not fulfilling Kashazomam, that it happens to them what they intended to do to the other. Why? Because is there anything that we can say? The inu boy kotel beloyasra. They wanted to kill this person that didn't even do anything wrong, and obviously he never got a warning for anything, and they still wanted to kill him. And the inu boy asra, and for them, they're only going to get misa like what they wanted to do, only if they get a warning. But we have to punish them exactly what they intended to do for their brother, and that's not going to be the exact same, because by them it's going to be lighter. It's only if they got a warning. So Abaye is saying the very fact that there's a concept of kasha zamam, that they have to be treated exactly the way they wanted to treat the other person, which is that he should die without any warning, they also have to get the einish of misa without a warning as well. So therefore we go back to what Abba Lazar said before is true, that by Eidim Zaymimin there is no warning. And if there's no warning, so then they pay, but they don't get malchus. But now based on this, Rav Sama Breder Rav Yirmiyah asks the question. Ela meyata. So the whole point you said is, why can't you give a warning? Because that will take away from the kasha zama. It's not exactly what they wanted to do to the other person. But how about in a case where we're not even giving the punishment of kasha zama? I'm going back to the example that was mentioned earlier. Ela meyata ben grushu ben chalutza. The case where Adam came and said that this person is a pasal kayin, he's a chalal, his mother was a grusha or a chalutza. The fact that the Edom get malchus has nothing to do with kasha zama. They're getting malchus because of the pasuk quoted before, V'haya and bina kaisa rasha. If so, over there, libaye asra, over there the Edom zayim should have to be warned. Abaye said the only reason they don't have to be warned is because it takes away from the kasha zama. But over here there is no kasha zama, so they should have to be warned. So this Gemara answers, Amakra, regarding the Edom. The Torah says, Mishpat echad yilachem. There should be one judgment for all the Edom. Mishpat hashava lekulchem. The same judgment for all Edom, meaning by all Edom, we treat them the same. We don't give any warning to them. So just like by the case where the kashazama would apply, we can't give a warning, so too by any Eidos, we don't give a warning before they speak. Okay, so this is all regarding Edom Zaymimin, bringing us another source why, when there's Malchus and Mamain, what do? We say they pay and not Malchus. Now, similar to Rav Sheshe B'Rei Ravidi goes back to something we spoke about before, which is also regarding Chayvel B'Chaveirei. By a person harming his friend, so over there also the halach is you pay and you don't give Malchus. And the Gemara before also brought a pasuk for this. It said in the pasuk, Kasha'asa Ken Yasaloi, Ken Yanasim Bay. Now, the Gemara brings a different drasha. So chayvel b'chaveirei nami memayne mishalem memilke leilaki. So you have to pay for what you did, and you do not get malchus mehacha. It's based on the following pasuk. So the pasuk says, "V'chiyonatza nashim." People are fighting. V'nokfu isha hara v'yatzi l'da. Now one was fighting with his friend, and now this woman, this pregnant woman, got involved, and instead of hitting your friend, you hit her, and she miscarried. So what happens now? So Rabbi Laza says, this is talking about a terrible fight here. This is talking about a fight where one intended to kill his friend. And instead of killing his friend, he killed this woman, or actually the baby. She miscarried the baby. So how do we know that it's talking about a fight where the one wanted to kill the other? Because what does the pasuk say afterwards regarding this story? If a tragedy happens here and someone gets killed, nefesh tachas nefesh. So then you have to take a soul for a soul, which means that he's chayiv misa. So according to the way the Gemara understands this right now, what happened here is, this is a scenario, we had this before in Masech Kesubos in the end of the first Perek. This is a scenario which is referred to as Niskaven Lare Gezeh V'Hara Gezeh. He intended to kill one person, but he ended up killing someone else. He wanted to kill his friend, but instead he ended up killing this baby that the woman miscarried. So what's the halacha in a case where you intended to kill one person and you ended up killing someone else? So right now the Gemara is following the opinion that says Yechayiv Misa. Even though you didn't end up killing the one you wanted to, but you did have intention to kill. And you killed. No payment. But you have to Yechayiv Misa. Okay, that's what the pasuk says. Now, let's understand over here. It says now that if you killed someone, then you're going to be chayiv misa. Now, heichi dami, so what are we speaking about? Idoloi asru bei. If this person that ended up killing this baby that was miscarried, so then amay mikta. Why would it say here nefesh tachas nefesh that you would be chayiv misa? You never got a warning for it. You never get an einish of misa without a warning. So obviously this case is talking about over here is that the murderer got a warning. And now, the rule of here is as follows. He got a warning not to murder. And he ended up murdering, not the one he intended to, but he ended up murdering someone else. Now, the rule is as follows. The Gemara now understands, if you get a warning for something more severe, that warning is considered to be valid also for something lighter. Like, for example, over here, if you actually ended up killing somebody, you got a warning, do not kill someone, because you're going to be chayiv misa. Now, if you don't end up killing that person, you just end up hurting them, bruising them, that's chayvel b'chaveirei. Then you're just chayiv malchus for that. So if you got a warning, and you were told that if you kill, you're going to be chayiv misa, that's a valid warning also to be able to give him malchus. So this person got a warning for malchus. Now, and what does the Torah there say? V'lo yiyah asayin. If there was a tragedy and he ended up killing somebody, so then he's chayiv misa. But if there's no tragedy and nobody died, Anaish, he gets punished. And what is the punishment the pasuk there talks about? Money. He has to pay money. So what do you see from here? This person got a punishment, and it's a warning that is. He got a valid warning for malchus. And then what do we obligate him to do? Not malchus, but to pay. So this is the source that in a case where you hit your friend and there's malchus or money, what is the halacha? You have to pay and you don't get malchus. This is the source that the Gemara, a new source the Gemara brings for this concept.
Is it absolutely this third party, this lady?
Yeah, regarding this third party, that's what we're talking about. Okay. On this, the Gemara asks, Maskefla Ravashi. Ravashi questions two things here. Number one, Mimai, the Musr l'davar chomer, have a Musr l'davar akal. How do you know that this concept is true? That if you're being warned about something more severe, so we say, oh, for sure the warning is valid for something lighter. Not necessarily. Even a more severe punishment, not necessarily is considered to be a warning for something lighter. Now, Taisus explains what's the logic for that. Even though you might think that, I mean, if you're being warned for something so severe, for sure it should be considered to be a warning for something lighter as well. But Taisus says not necessarily, because this concept of warning is exeris akosov, that a person has to be matter himself. He has to understand specifically that he's getting a warning for the punishment that he's going to get. In the very last line of the Taisus, he says, it's not just about warning him, don't do this. He has to know the specific punishment and sort of allow himself to get that punishment. And then if you got warned about Misa and he wasn't warned about Malchus, not necessarily is it considered to be a warning for that. That's the first point. Second point the Gemara asks, now even if you're going to argue this point, even if you're going to say once you got a warning about something more severe, it's for sure considered to be a warning for something lighter, but nevertheless, who says the punishment of the death is more severe than the punishment of Malchus? Dilma Malchus Chamer. Maybe lashes is actually more hurtful and more pain, and it's more severe than death. And the Gemara brings in a source for this. Rav said, El Mali Nagdua, L'Chananya, Mishol, Vazariah. So Hananya, Mishol, Vazariah allowed themselves to die. They didn't want to bow down to an Avodah Zarah. And so he said that if they were hit and they were given lashes, Palchol Etzlama, they would have bowed down to this Avodah Zarah. So we see here that they were ready to die, but not necessarily were they ready to get lashes. So we see that Malchus could be more severe even than death. Taisvis actually points out that we must say that the story of Nechanan, Mishal, Vazariah, this tselem that there wasn't the real Avodah Zarah. If it would be a real Avodah Zarah, they would be ready to die. They would be ready to get lashes, no difference. This tselem was some kind of a thing that was there for the covet of the king that they were supposed to bow down to, but it wasn't real Avodah Zarah. Okay, but the point remains that we see over here that a warning for Malchus could be something which is actually more severe than Misa. Okay, so therefore those are the two questions the Gemara asks in this. So the Gemara says, no, this is not a question. Amalei Rav Sama berei de Rav Asi le Rav Ashi. V'amri lo Rav Sama berei de Rav Ashi le Rav Ashi. So he answered as follows. You can't bring me any raya from the story of Hanani, Mishav, Azariah. Why? V'leishani lach. Is there no difference to you? Ben Akash, yesh la kitzvah, Akash, ein la kitzvah. To a situation where someone knows he can be getting lashes without any limit. Hanani, Mishav, Azariah could have been persecuted without any limit whatsoever. That's something that they would not have. They would have bowed down to this tzelem. La kasha la kitzvah. Well, we were talking about lashes, which is 39 lashes. It has a very specific amount. So that's definitely not as severe as the death penalty. So therefore, the warning that they got that they should not kill someone because you're going to die is considered to be a valid warning for Malchus as well. So we have here, again, going back to the point the Gemara is saying, we have here a valid warning from Malchus, and still it says that if nobody died, if you didn't kill anyone, you have to pay, and not Malchus. So this is the source. That when there's Malchus and there's Mammon, you pay, and there's no Malchus. But now the Gemara says there's actually another opinion how to interpret that entire story. Until here, we were going with the approach that in a case where a person intended to kill one person and he ended up killing someone else, you chayiv misa for that. So therefore the Gemara said the warning for Misa is also a valid warning for Malchus. But there's another opinion about this, and that is, we had this before, Rashi brought before, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says, according to another opinion, if you intended to kill one person and you end up killing someone else, there is no Misa for that. And that's what the pasuk is speaking about. There's no misa here at all. He never got a warning from misa. So now mask of Lord of Yaakov ben Nahar Pekoid Ha Niche L'Rabbanan. Everything we said till here is true according to the Rabbanan. The Amri, they say, when it says in the pasuk nefesh tachas nefesh, that you have to take a soul for a soul. What does that mean? Mamish. Nefesh mamish, literally, that he's chayiv misa, even though he did not intend to kill this person, but he intended to kill someone. Rabbi, however, Rabbi disagrees. The Amar Rabbi says, because you didn't end up killing the person you intended to kill, mamin, the whole warning is just for money. So he never got a warning from Malchus. No basis to say that he got a warning from Malchus is because he got a warning from Misa, so that's a valid warning from Malchus. But according to Rebbe, you just pay over here in the first place because so there was no warning b'chlal from Malchus. So we have no source from here at all to say that in a case where there's Mammon and Malchus, you would pay and not Malchus. So therefore the Gemara brings no. So there's a different pasuk actually. Elam Rav Yaakov menahar pekoit mishmei derave mahacha. There's a different pasuk where you could see that when there's Mammon and Malchus, so you pay. And again, this is by a chayvul b'chaveira. Not every time Mammon and Malchus. We're talking specifically regarding a chayvul b'chaveira. So you pay and there's no Malchus. Where do you see this? The pasuk says, "Im yokum," if somebody hit someone and he was not well, but then he got up and he's all fine. He's fine. V'salach b'chutz. He walks outside al mishanta and is totally strong. V'nika makis. So the one that hit him is clear. He doesn't. He's not chayiv misa. If you hit someone and he dies, you're chayiv misa. But if not, you're not chayiv misa. That's the pasuk. Wait. So the Gemara now asks on this. First, let's understand the simple pshat of the pasuk. V'chisala al daitcha. Would you even think shezeh mahalach pashuk? The person that you hit is walking around in the marketplace and he's totally fine. V'zen nerak, and the person that maybe tried to kill him would be chayiv misa. Why does the pasuk have to say? And if the person you hit is well and fine, so then you don't get a chayiv misa. Obviously, you never murdered anybody. Why does the Torah have to even say this? Ella. So really, what the pasuk is coming to teach me is follows. It's not coming to say that when he's well, you don't get misa. That's obvious. But what it's saying is, initially, when it's not clear if he's going to recover from the blow that you gave him, there the Torah is telling you what you have to do. Nalamed, Torah is teaching you that this person that went and intended to murder his friend and we're not sure if he's going to survive or not. So what we do is we take this person and we lock him up. And now if the person that he hit will die, then katlinanlei, then we'll give him misa. But if he did not die, so then so then you just pay. You have to pay for the job loss, you have to pay for the medical bills, and everything else you have to pay for. So the main thing the pasuk is trying to say is what you have to do until this point, that you do have to lock him up and observe what's going on over here.
That's the only place we ever lock up a Jew.
Could be.
There's no other place where you lock up a Jew.
B'derech klal, right. In Torah, there's no such a thing as that. Well, there are a few cases. There are. This is one of them. So the Gemara now asks about this. Hey chidami. So what are we speaking about here? Either lo yasrube, if this person never got a warning at all, so then amai mikdal. He wouldn't get any punishment of misa. Ela pshita dasrube. We're speaking of here about a case that he was warned. And again, going back to the rule that we said before, he got warned, don't murder your friend because you're going to be chayiv misa. Now, musr l'davar chamor, if you were warned for something so harsh, musr l'davar akal. It's also considered a warning for something lighter. What does the Torah here say? So this person got a valid warning. Both, he got a warning for misa, and that warning counts also as a warning that if you're just going to hit him, and even if he won't die, but just hitting him, it's a warning from Malchus as well. And nevertheless, the Torah says that if his friend survived and you're not chayiv misa, so you seemingly should be chayiv malchus. But what does the Torah say? Shifta yitim v'rape yerape. They only have to pay for his job loss, pay for his medical bills, or all the other payments that you have to pay. So this is the source where you see that when you have a warning from malchus, but you don't get malchus, you just have to pay. Again, the Gemara is going to ask the same questions as before. Maskal Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi asks on this. First of all, Mimai, how do you know the musl davar chamav and musl davar akal? That if you get a warning for something more severe, so that could be counted as a warning for something lighter. So how do you know you can count this as a warning from Malchus? Dil malayava, maybe it's not a warning for that. Vim tim tzalei mahava, and even if you can argue and say that it is a warning from Malchus, Mimai de misa chamura. How do you know that death is more harsher than lashes? Dilma Malchus Chomer. Maybe Malchus is more Chomer. Because Rav said, the Chanayim Shol Vazai were ready to die, but not ready to accept lashes. Again, the Gemara gives the same answer. You can't ask from there. Amalei Rav Sama Bereder Rav Asi Rav Ashi. V'Amar Rav Sama Bereder Rav Ashi Li Rav Ashi. Is there no distinction between Akash Yesh La Kitzvah, Akash Ein La Kitzvah? In the case of Chanai Mishav Azariah, they would have been hit without any limit. And over here you're talking about Malchus, which is 39. How can you compare to that case? Definitely it's lighter than Misa. So therefore, this should be a good source here. We have here a situation where there was a Hasra, proper Hasra for Misa, which counts as Hasra for Malchus, and still you pay. So this should be a good source. Now the Gemara has a final question. It doesn't give an answer. But Rav Mari asks on this in this pasuk where it speaks about the person that hit his friend and so on. How do you even know that pasuk is talking about a situation where a person intentionally went and hit his friend, and therefore the reason why we're locking him up is to wait and see if he's a murderer or not? But maybe and that v'nika mikatala. And when it says in the pasuk that v'nika makkah, that he's clean, it means that we don't give him a punishment of death. Dilma, perhaps that pasuk is speaking about a different story. B'shoigig, he did it inadvertently, and now the question is, why do we lock him up? We want to see, will he have to go to Galus or not? A person that kills b'shoigig has to go to a Galus. And v'nika megalus, and therefore the whole v'nika that it's saying is, you lock him up to wait and see if he has to go to Galus, but he never got a warning. In the case of a shoigig, by shoigig there's no warning, obviously. So how do you know b'chlal there was any warning here? The whole raya that we were saying is, he got a warning from Malchus, and still he only pays. But if the pasuk is talking about a shoigig, there's no warning at all. So therefore we have no raya from this pasuk at all. Kashya. This remains a question. Okay. Now, okay, let's continue. The Gemara goes back now to the original question that it had, which is on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis at the bottom. The Gemara's original question was regarding what? The contradiction between our Mishnah here and the Mishnah Masechta Makkos. In a case where a person has a relation with a sister or any of those cases where there are Malchus, so in our Mishnah it said that you pay Knas, and the Mishnah Masechta Malchus it said that you get Malchus, that is. So the question is, which one is it? So we had the two opinions, Ola and Rabbi Yochanan, that gave an answer to that. Now the Gemara brings a third opinion how to answer this. Shlakish says, Hamani Rab Meir, our Mishnah here that says that you do both, that you give Knas and there'll be Malchus as well. This is following Rab Meir's opinion. What did Rab Meir say? We quoted this before. The Amar Rab Meir says, Loike umishalem. Rab Meir says that even when you get Malchus, like it said in the Mishnah in Masechta Makkos, but you also pay. You could give both punishments together. We don't pass like Rab Meir. The whole Sugya Taylor is going along with the premise that it's either one or the other. The only machlokes between Ola and Rab Yochanan was, which one is it? But Rab Meir says it's both, and that's what our Mishnah is. No, Rab Meir argues. Rab Meir says you get both. Loike u'mishalem, that's our Mishnah. Frag the Gemara, how could you say this? Rab Meir, if our Mishnah is Rab Meir, so then this should apply afila bitoy nami, even if a person violated his own daughter. And in such a case, what happens if a person has a relation with his own daughter? There's actually a chi of misa. That's one of the examples of an erva where there's a chi of misa. So the Gemara right now is assuming that if according to Rab Meir you can give two punishments, which is malchus and money together, so the same should apply to misa as well. He probably doesn't hold of the whole entire concept of kamle b'derabimine. Even when you give a chi of misa, there's still a chi to pay. So even by a daughter, you should also be chayiv to pay the knas. Now the next Mishnah here that's coming up soon, it says there clearly that in a case where a person had a relation with his daughter, since there's a chiyuv misa, there is no payment. But if our Mishnah is going according to Rab Meir, there still should be a payment. Now if you'll argue and say, you can't compare Rab Meir, loike u'mishalem isle. Rab Meir's chiddush was that the two punishments that you give together would be malchus and to pay. But meis u'mishalem lesle. But Rab Meir would agree that if a person is chayiv misa, he's not going to pay at the same time that he's chayiv misa. That's why bitoy with a daughter where he's chayiv misa, it's a different story. Frak the Gemara v'loi, this is not true, but we have a clear brayser where Rab Meir says that Rab Meir says there's misa and payment. Because Vatanya, we learned in the brayser as follows. A person stole an animal on Shabbos and then he went and shechted it, he slaughtered it, all on Shabbos. So what you have over here is, you have a gneva and then you have a tvicha. The halacha by tvicha is that you have to pay a penalty 4 or 5 times as much as what you stole, and it's all done on Shabbos. So there's also a chil Shabbos here, right? He shechted it on Shabbos. So he's chayiv misa and he's chayiv mammon. Or ganav tovach lavedas kechavim, person that stole and he slaughtered it for an avodah zarah. So that's also a case where he's chayiv misa because he did it for avodah zarah. Or a third example, which is a little bit different story, Ganav Shoyran Niskal. A person steals an ox that was already, it gored and killed somebody, and in such a case, Bezdin Paskin, that this shoyer has to be killed, and it's asa bahana. And v'tavchay, and this person went and stole this ox, and he slaughtered it. Rav Meir says in all these cases, Mishalem Tashlume Arba v'chamisha. He has to pay 4 or 5 times as much. He has to pay, and besides the misa, by Shabbos he'll be chayiv misa, by avodah zarah also chayiv misa. Besides the misa, he also has to pay. Divrei Rab Meir, that's what Rab Meir says. So this Gemara here is saying, you clearly see that Rab Meir says, like on mishalem and also misa and tashlumen. The Chachamim paitre, and the Chachamim say you'll be pater. So similarly, pater from the pay because you chayiv misa. Says the Gemara, no, there's no raya from there. Ha'itmar law, but we learned regarding the pshat of what Rab Meir said there. Amar Rav Yaakov, Amar Rav Yechanan. Rav Yaakov said in the name of Rav Yechanan. Nav Amri law, Amar Rav Yirmiyah, Amar Rav Shimon ben Lakish, that Rab Abin, the Rabbi Law, V'chol Chavarasa, Mishmei de Rav Yechanan. Everybody, all these Tanoim, they all said, or Amirayim, they all said in the name of Rav Yechanan. The Amri, they said as follows. What is that case talking about when Rab Meir says that you're going to be chayiv to pay? You sent a shliach to go and do this slaughtering on Shabbos. You didn't do it yourself. So there's no chiv misa that's on you. Because there was no chiv misa on you, that's why you pay. Yeah, but the Gemara immediately asks, Frek the Gemara, is there such a thing that you sent a shliach to go and do this slaughtering and you're going to be the one responsible to pay for this? Shliach l'dvar aveda. Exactly. There's never such a thing that someone else does that and you're going to be chayiv. Gemara says this is actually an exception. Amarav Marachmana here the Torah says v'tavchay oy machrei. The chiv to pay 4 or 5 times as much when you steal and slaughter or sell it. Torah says it's either when you slaughter or when you sold what you stole. Now we compare the two. Just like when there's a sale, obviously the transaction consists of this, that there's someone else that's buying it from you. So too, the slaughtering that the Torah says that you have to be paid back 4 or 5 times as much, it's when it's being done even through someone else, you're still going to be responsible. The Mishaleach is still going to be responsible. Over here we say, Yesh Shliach L'Dvar Aveda. And the Gemara brings a few other sources for this on other opinions. Rabbi Shmuel Tana, Oy, l'Rabbis is a shliach. That extra word, Oy, v'tavchay oy machreis, many times the Torah just writes v'tavchay umachrei, and the vav means or. Here it says Oy, that's coming to include a shliach. The Beichizkiya Tana, tachas, l'Rabbis is a shliach. In the pasuk there, it also uses the word tachas, that when he has to pay, if it's a seh, you pay 4 times as much. A shur, you pay, and it says over there, chamisha bak tachas asher, tachas aseh. So it says the word tachas, that's an extra word, it comes to include the shliach. So this is a chiddush, this is an exception, that over here, even with a shliach, you have to pay. So the point is, this is how Rabbi Yechanan explained Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Meir does not hold that if you yourself would do the slaughtering and you would be chayiv misa, you would still be chayiv to pay. Because in such a case, Rabbi Meir would agree, kamle b'derabim, if you're chayiv misa, you pata to pay. Why did Rabbi Meir there say that you're chayiv to pay? Is because you sent a shliach, someone else is chayiv the misa for Shabbos. And you're the one's going to be chayiv to pay. So he gets the misa and you get the payment. Okay, frag the Gemara. But there's another problem here with this whole story of the shlichus. Why? Maskif lo mazutra. Mazutra asked the question. We had the following rule. Mi ikim midi. Do we ever have a case regarding shlichus? The ilu avad iyu. If the meshaleach himself would do it, loy mechayiv. He won't be chayiv. Because if he would do it, it's his chil Shabbos. He's chayiv misa, so he does not pay. And v'avid shliach u'mechayiv iyu. And now, because the shliach did it, so now you should be chayiv. You can't say that. If when you do it yourself, you're not chayiv. If a shliach does it for you, even if you're going to say that in this case there's a chiddush, you're responsible for what your shliach did, but you're not going to be chayiv more than what you would be chayiv yourself. So the Gemara answers here. The Gemara says a very fundamental point regarding kamli b'derab minei. Sorry, you read it. The word "ihu" is already part of the answer. Answers the Gemara: "Ihu lav mishum deloy mechayev." When the Mishaleach himself was Mechal Shabbos and he's Chayiv Misa, and therefore he does not pay the 4 or 5 times for what he did, it's not because he's not Chayiv. Really, the Chiv of Mammon is there. Ela mishum dekam lei b'derabim minei. In actuality, he'll be exempt to pay it because he's getting a bigger punishment. Right? But the chiyuv of mammon is there. So what the Gemara is basically saying is, Mazutra came and said, you know what Kam Lev D'Rabbanan means? Kam Lev D'Rabbanan means if you're getting a bigger punishment, the lighter punishment of mammon, that payment, that obligation of payment doesn't begin in the first place. So therefore he asks the question, if you yourself don't have this obligation of paying this money, how can you say if your shliach does it, that you do have that obligation? So he answers him, no, the pshat of Kam Lev D'Rabbanan is, there is a chiyuv of mammon. But when you get the bigger punishment, so then the pile you don't have to actually pay it, but that chiyuv is there. So when a shliach is doing it, so because you're not getting that bigger punishment, that chiyuv of mammon, which is always there, now you have to go ahead and pay it. That's the answer. Okay, but the Gemara has another very big question over here, according to the Rabbanan. If the case over here in the Braise is that you sent a shliach, what did the Rabbanan say? That in such a case you would be potter. Why should you be potter? The only reason to be potter is because of Kam Lev D'Rabbanan, because you're chayav for misa. But here, if you sent the shliach, so there's no reason to be potter. So why Chachamim saying get potter? Okay, but this was continuation. We'll learn in Mitzvah tomorrow.